Nobody warned you about this war. Not your parents, not your teachers, not anyone. The most dangerous enemy you will ever face in your life doesn't live outside of you. It lives inside your own skull. I want you to think about the last time you had a big idea, a dream, a plan, something you actually believed in. And then think about what happened, not what the world did to that dream. What you did to it. You talked yourself out of it, didn't you? You said things like, I'm not ready. What if I fail? Who am I to think I can do this? People will laugh. Maybe later. Maybe when the time is right. And here's the thing nobody will say to your face. That wasn't caution. That wasn't logic. That was the enemy talking. And you listened. Most people lose the war before they even realize they are in one. They lose in the quiet moments. They lose it in the gap between what they dream and what they do. They lose it to a voice inside their heads that sounds so much like them that they never question whether it's actually working for them. Today we talk about that one. And more importantly, how to win it. Let's talk about what's actually happening inside your brain. Because this isn't meta. This is neuroscience. Your brain has a system, and psychology call it the inner critic. But that name is almost too soft for what it actually does. Think of it less like a critic and more like a hostage, negotiator working for the wrong side. Here's how it works. From the time you were born, your brain had one primary job: keep you alive. Not happy, not successful, not fulfilled, alive. And to do that job, it developed a bias. Scientists call it the negative bias. Your brain is wired, literally hardwired, to register threats, failures, embarrassments, and dangers more powerfully than victories, successes, and opportunities. Why? Because in the wild, in the ancient world, your brain was built for missing a thread could kill you. Missing an opportunity just meant you didn't eat today. So your brain became a machine for detecting danger. And here's where it gets you. In 2026, the threats aren't lies. They are rejection, judgment, failure, embarrassment, and your brain treats all of them the same way. It would treat a predator in the dark. It fires off the same alarm system. It floods you with the same chemicals it screams, don't move, don't try, stay where you are, stay safe. And what does safe looks like? The same as yesterday. The same routine, the same circle, the same smallness. Your brain isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it was designed for. But you were designed for a world that no longer exists. And the operating system hasn't. Now here's where it gets deeper. Psychologists have found that most people carry something called an inner critic narrative. They tell themselves about limitations. They tell themselves about their limitations. And the dangerous part, these narratives don't feel like stories. They feel like facts. I'm not disciplined enough. I always mess things up when it matters. People like me don't succeed at things like that. I'm too far behind to catch up now. You say those things like they are observations, but they are not observations. They are old programs, running on autopilot every single day. And here's the research that should shake you. Studies in cognitive neuroscience show that the more you repeat a thought, the more your brain physically rewires itself to make that thought the default. It's called neural pathway formation. Every time you tell yourself you are not enough, you're not just feeling something, you're building the architecture of a brain that will keep producing that feeling. You are literally constructing the prison with your own. So the question isn't whether you have a voice like this. Everyone does. The question is, are you going to keep letting it run the show? Now let me show you exactly how this enemy operates. Because it doesn't just show up as a voice, it shows up as patterns, as behaviors, as habits you didn't realize you formed. There are three main traps, as I guarantee at least one of them has you right now. Trap number one, the overthinking loop. This is where the voice lives most of the time. You have a decision to make, a step to take, a risk to consider. And instead of making a decision, you analyze it, and then you analyze the analysis, and then you imagine every possible outcome, and then you imagine the worst possible outcome, and you sit there paralyzed, calling it thinking it through. But here's what's actually happening. Overthinking is not careful thinking. It's a tier with a productive outcome. It feels like you are being reasonable, responsible, like you are being through. But you are not moving, and you are not moving as always as a decision. It's just a decision made by the enemy on your behalf. Trap number two, imposter syndrome. This one is particularly cruel because it gets worse as you improve. You start making progress. You start building something real. You get better. at your craft, and then the voice says, you don't actually belong here. They are going to find out you don't know what you are doing, you have just been lucky, everyone else figured out except you. And the twist is that this voice often gets louder the more capable you become because your standards are doing faster than your confidence. You know enough now to know how much you don't know, and the enemy uses that awareness against you. I need you to understand something. The presence of self doubt doesn't mean you are unqualified, it means you care. People who feel no doubt about their abilities are usually the least qualified. Imposter syndrome is often just high standards meeting honest self awareness. The problem isn't that you have it, the problem is that you let it stop you. Trap number 3, the comparison trap. This is the weapon the modern world hands directly to your enemy. You open your phone, and in 30 seconds, you've been someone your age who seems to have more than you, who seems further ahead, who seems more successful, more put together, more certain, more confident. And the voice says, sad. That's where you should be, and you're not there. What does that say about you? Here's what you need to understand about comparison. You are watching someone's highlight reels while living your own raw footage. You see their wins. They don't post the 3 a.m. doubt. They don't post the 3 a.m. doubt. They don't post the failed attempts that preceded the success. They don't post a version of themselves that was exactly where you are now. But more than that, comparison removes you from your own story. It makes you the audience of someone else's life instead of the author of your own. And you cannot write your story while you're reading someone else's. You let that land. Alright, you know the enemy, you know the traps. Now let's talk about weapons. Because this is a war, and wars require strategy. Weapon 1, cognitive reframing. This is the most powerful tool in your arsenal, and it's not about being positive. I want to be very clear about that. This is not about toxic positivity. This is about accuracy. When the inner critic fires, and it will fire, your first move is to catch it. Not fight it, not suppress it, catch it. Name it. That's the self-doubt pattern. That's the comparison trap. That's the overthinking loop starting. When you name a thought, you create distance between yourself and the thought. You go from being inside the thought to observing it. And from the observer position, you have power. Then you question it. Ask the thought, is this actually true? Or is this fear pretending to be wisdom? Ask it, what is the evidence for this belief? And what is the evidence against it? Ask it, if my best person said this to me, would I accept it? as fact or without pushback. You would push back. So push back. The thought says you are not ready. You ask, ready? According to who? When has someone ever been perfectly ready? The thought says, you are too far behind. You ask, behind on whose timeline? Who decided that what the schedule was? The thought says, you will fail. You say, maybe, but so did everyone who eventually succeeded, and failing is not the same as being finished. Reframing doesn't mean pretending the challenge isn't real. It means refusing to let the worst interpretations of reality be the only one you consider. Weapon 2, pattern interruption. The inner critic runs on momentum. Once the loop starts, the overthinking, the comparison, the spiral builds on itself. Your job is to break the pattern before it builds. Here's what that looks like in practice. The moment you notice the loop starting, you physically interrupt. Stand up, move your body, hold water on your face, say out loud, not in your head. That's not real. Next move. It sounds simple, almost embarrassingly simple, but neuroscience shows that physical movement combined with verbal interruption fires different neural circuits and literally breaks the feedback loop in your brain. You cannot think your way out of a thought spiral. You have to move out of it. Weapon 3, identity level shift. This is the deepest weapon and it takes the longest to build, but it's the one that makes the others sustainable. Most people try to change their behavior. They make rules, they set goals, they build habits, and then the behavior slips and they feel like they failed because they were trying to change what they do without changing who they are. Here's the truth. Behavior is downstream from identity. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to the level of your identity. You fell to the level of your own identity. So the real work isn't about what you do every morning, it's about who you decide you are. A person who sees themselves as someone who doesn't quit, even on hard days. A person who sees themselves as someone who faces their fear even when everything inside them says don't. Not because they feel strong, because that is who they have decided to be. And every small action you take that is consistent with that identity is a vote for that identity. Every time you do the hard thing when you don't feel like it, you are not just completing a task, you are casting a vote. You are saying, this is who I am. And over time, the vote accumulates and the identity becomes unshakable. The inner critic doesn't disappear. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you it does, but When your identity is solid, when you know at the deepest level who you are, the critic's voice becomes background noise. It speaks. You acknowledge it. You move anyway. That's what winning looks like, not silence, not the absence of doubt, movement, despite the doubt. I'm going to leave you with something practical for the next 7 days. Just 7. I want you to do one thing. Every time you catch the enemy speaking, every time you hear a voice in your head telling you that you can't, that you are not enough, that you are behind, that you don't belong, write it down. Don't analyze it yet, just catch it and write it down. And then write truth next to it. Not the optimistic spin, truth. The enemy says, you always give up. The truth might be, I've given up before, but I'm also here, still trying, and that matters. The enemy says, you are not smart enough for this. The truth might be, I'm learning, I'm not there yet, but not there yet is not the same as before. 7 days of catching the voice and answering it with truth, that's the beginning of winning this war. Here's what I know about you. You're watching this because part of you already knows something needs to change. Part of you already suspects that the biggest obstacle in your life is not external. That awareness, that willingness to look at what's happening inside you, that's not weakness. That is the first sign of someone who actually wins. Most people never ever even look. Most people outsource the blame, the circumstances, the luck, the timing. You looked inward. Now, do something with what you see. I will see you in the next one. If this landed, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And drop in the comments, what does your inner critic say most often?